It's critical that leaders are not optimizing how their teams work, doing things that they should not be doing. The solution to that is for leaders to ensure that every decision they make is based on factual data. At CloudHealth, we've experimented quite heavily with how to leverage data analytics to drive meaningful outcomes for our customers and partners. We learned tons of lessons along the way. And for the last 12 to 18 months, as we focus more on partner success, we thought that it makes sense for us to share some of these lessons with our partners. So starting with takeaway number one, partners are not customers. They're much more than that. The relationship between vendors and partners, we think it's very biased today towards treating partners like they're direct customers. And that's very dangerous. With direct customers, you may get away with just letting them adopt the platform, get value out of the solution, add good experience on top of that, and they'll probably become sticky and stay with you. With partners, that may not work because they have customers of their own, and those customers have their own success criteria. And it's very important for you as a vendor to make sure that you understand it. It's very important for you as a partner to make sure that your vendor understands it. So this is why at CloudHealth, we are big believers in the concept of shared visibility and shared responsibility. When I say shared visibility, it means two things for us. Visibility for us on what success looks like for our partners and their customers, ensuring that we understand their goals, ensure that those goals are documented in a success plan. And the second part is also ensuring that partners have visibility into what their end customers are doing in our platform. Most of our partners are managed service providers. They create services powered by CloudHealth. So we want them to truly understand what their end customers are doing in our platform. And that really removes us viewing partners as a black box. We are now able to predict churn and growth, and same for them. They should not be surprised when their customers are churning because of lack of usage or lack of adoption, or want to spend more with them. So what we did in the last 6 months to 12 months, we've created this tool, and we created a service on top of it called Customer Health Analytics. And basically, it allows us to share with our partner community what their end customers are doing in the platform. And Sam is going to talk about it in the next slide.
Thanks, George. So I'm hopeful that many of you have seen customer analytics in the past. It's the actor formerly known as Project PI. And the goal in customer health analytics is to really share with you two key pieces of information. One is the business metrics. What's net retention look like? What does your churn look like? What does your growth look like? And then what does your new customer growth look like? And we bundle all this together, and then we compare you to your peers in both your cloud spend range as well as your region. And that piece really covers off on how well are you doing as a business, especially as a recurring revenue business. And then down below, the second key piece of customer health analytics are the customer insights. How healthy are your customers when it comes to their value and adoption of CloudHealth? And this is something that can be driven by you as the partner, as well as the customer themselves going into the platform and getting value out of it. The key thing to highlight about the customer insights is that, as George mentioned, this has been it's years in the making and years in the tweaking, if you will. We spent countless time looking at analytics from both our partners, our direct customers, and our channel customers into what really leads to a successful adoption of the CloudHealth platform. And then what are some key metrics that are very significantly tied to either expansion and growth within our customers, or very significantly tied, unfortunately, to churn. And through that analysis, we've been able to tweak it over the years and really make sure that when you see green, yellow, or red here, there's action you can take. And this is something that you can work with the customer success team here to really, drive adoption and ultimately drive those business metrics up top in the right direction.
Thank you, Sam. Takeaway number two, you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So Peter Drucker is known for saying this, that you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And we believe that is very, very true. Because how can you work on a goal if you don't have a clear success criteria and if you have no way to measure your progress? And we believe that's the same thing for us running our teams. And while we know that better onboarding leads to better adoption, which eventually leads to better retention, but if you're not able to measure your progress and measure each step of the customer lifecycle, then you're flying blind. So our first lesson learned very early on in our business is that invest early on in your biz ops team or customer operations team. And a quick note here, this team is not only for the sales team. You should have someone dedicated for the CS team. And we've done that at CloudHealth, and the ROI was quite significant. So it became clear to us that we need dashboards, we need data flowing to all the different people at CloudHealth, from executives to regional leaders to individual contributors. We believe that everyone should have visibility to their goals and their progress at any point in time. So the three pipelines based on three dashboards that I'm a huge believer in are the onboarding pipeline, the adoption pipeline, and the retention pipeline. And we believe that this covers the lifecycle of the customer. We do this for our partners. Our direct team does it for direct customers, and we highly recommend our partners to do it as well. And what you do in these pipelines is the following. In the onboarding pipeline, make sure that there was a good handoff between pre-sales and post-sales. Make sure that the expectations were set correctly. Make sure that the time to value is being tracked. Make sure that the onboarding has a finite amount of time, usually 30 to 60 to 90 days, depending on your business. But make sure that you're tracking these things so that the onboarding is successful. We are huge believers that the onboarding is the most important step in your customer lifecycle. Next one is the adoption pipeline. In the adoption pipeline, we look at early warning indicators, early risk indicators for customers that are not adopting the platform. It could be DAU over MAU, login data, however you want to track it. But make sure you flag these early on because you want to attack this problem proactively than trying to fight an uphill battle when they already ask you to churn. And finally, the renewal pipeline. The renewal pipeline is not only to manage upcoming renewals for large accounts. It's also to look at those customers that have very healthy adoption scores. These are target for expansion, whether cross-sell or upsell. So we highly recommend that you also track these. And we do these meetings every month, and they've been quite valuable to us. Sam, can you tell us more about the dashboards that you and your team use?
Absolutely. Thanks, George. So one of the things that George is really driving to there is the importance of data. How do you capture all of this data? And then really, how do you take that data and make it into something that's more actionable? So as George mentioned, one of the key things here is dashboards for every user. How do we track what's important to our leaders, to our managers, to our directors, and to our individual contributors so that we know on a daily, weekly, monthly basis what our goals are and how we're tracking to those goals. And up until this point, we've spent years of using Gainsight and building Gainsight dashboards and really building customer success into our day-to-day operations in order to achieve that. So using things like automated call to action so that a technical account manager or a corporate account manager can get a notification for where they want to be looking, how they want to be scheduling their days and weeks is critically important for us and critically important for our customers' success as well. One of the other things that's really important with our dashboards and our ability to drive this data into action is the ability to aggregate it across different sources and also the ability to trend it over time. So one of the things that's important for us, as I mentioned earlier, are health scores. And for us, we take into consideration business relationship. We take into consideration adoption, what the sentiment is around product and support, all this feedback we get from customers. And we trend that over time to determine who are the customers who on average are becoming healthier and are having a better experience with CloudHealth and a better outcome with CloudHealth, and who are those where we need to focus our attention. And that's where we can work with the account teams, work with the account managers to go in and use these systems, use these tools in order to take a data-driven approach to driving action, to scheduling customer sessions. And as Ryan kind of showed before, there's that really complicated and what can be that busy slide of all these different customer interactions you have. Some are scheduled, some are unscheduled. The more that you can have that are scheduled and programmatic and that fall on a regular cadence so that you can set the right customer expectation, the better off you're going to be. And we really try to use all this data that we can gather to drive that.
Thank you, Sam. And that brings us to takeaway number 3, segmentation. You'll be surprised how many customers or partners we work with that have very basic segmentation or do not have segmentation. And segmentation could be many things. You can segment your customers in different ways. But for us, when it comes to customer engagement, it's critical that you segment your customers by tech touch, low touch, high touch. And when talking about these 3 types of segmentations or three parts, it's funny that every sales guy I speak with think that their next deal is going to be this massive customer that is going to grow significantly, and we should treat them as high touch. In fact, almost every other day I hear about this. And what we've done at CloudHealth is that we removed the human element out of deciding which level of touch we should assign to customers. We started simple, then we started experimenting with different intelligent ways to segment our customers. Then I think, as you'll see in the next slide with Sam, we went back to the simplistic approach. But the idea here is that we removed the human element out of it, and we've completely automated it. Meaning that tomorrow a sales guy closes a deal, automatically the system would recognize that and assign a level of touch that eventually lets the CSM who's going to be onboarding this customer know what level of touch this customer will have. There is no negotiation, there is no debate. And the segmentation model that we have adapts automatically. So if the customer does grow over time and does have that potential that we expected them to have, then the model will adapt accordingly, and the level of touch will change from tech touch to low touch to high touch if they keep progressing. And for us, that works really well. And we highly recommend that partners do that for their customers. The culture of whoever screams the loudest should be treated as high touch is really not scalable. You cannot just treat or spend more time on the customers who scream the loudest, and that's actually very dangerous. So as you'll see in the next slide, Sam will show you our current segmentation model that we use for our direct customers, and we also have another segmentation model that we use for our partners. But I think what you'll find it more valuable as partners is the direct side. Sam, I'll let you take it from here.
Perfect. And as George mentioned, a qualitative approach to the segmentation is where it all falls apart. If we had the opportunity to, we would try to treat every customer as high touch and talk to every customer as frequently as possible, but that's just not scalable and it won't lead to a successful engagement. So what we've done at CloudHealth is, we've tailored this over time. We started really simple, then we made it a little bit more complicated. Now we're back to simple. And I recommend for all of you, to tailor this as well. Tailor it to your business, tailor it to your customers, see what works, and then make any changes where necessary. But where we landed right now is it's all an MRR based calculation. Our high touch customers are our direct customers who pay us more than a month. Low touch are those that fall between the benchmark, and then tech touch are those that are below. Now, what does that mean, right? Now that you're a high touch, a low touch, a tech touch customer, what does that actually mean when it comes to engaging with CloudHealth? And do you know that? So first off, our customers typically don't know where they fall here, right? So they're just a customer of CloudHealth, and our goal is to provide a top-notch customer success experience and drive positive outcomes regardless of where they fall, whether they're high touch, low touch, or tech touch. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that the teams internally are fully aware of what it is that it means that they need to do for each of these different tiers. So I'll walk you through, for example, just high touch. What does that look like? For all customers, we're going to have an onboarding, but high touch is going to have the most hands-on onboarding. We're going to put a lot of focus into developing what success looks like in that onboarding and then driving to it. And we have best practices for how to do this. We don't have to do this the same way for every high touch customer, but we do have a standard cadence that we follow, and we allow the account teams to go right around that, maybe above it a little bit, maybe below it a little bit, but it's really just a good guideline and best practice to follow. Then we set an expectation around what account management looks like. For high touch, you're going to have a designated team. If we go down to tech touch, that's going to be automated. The goal for tech touch is really to automate the entire customer success experience. Then we have business engagement. We want there to be that hands-on feel. We want that customer to know that they're important to us and that their business is important to us, and that we want them to feel like a true cloud, like there's a true partnership with CloudHealth. From a technical engagement, where we're using our technical account managers and having proactive sessions with these customers, we try to do that on a monthly or maybe more basis with high touch. With low touch, as I mentioned earlier, we try to drive automation. That's CTA driven. And then again, tech touch, that's automated. We're hopeful that we can run a program to get this information and how you can adopt the platform out to these customers in an automated fashion. One of the key things mentioned earlier was business reviews, executive business reviews. How do we make sure that we're on the same page strategically with customer executives? And we should be doing that quarterly with our high touch customers, ensuring that their success metrics are the same as our success metrics, that we mutually agree upon what the definition of success is, and that we calibrate that on a quarterly basis. And then another key piece here is the product. How do we ensure that they're getting some visibility into our roadmap, into what we're doing with the product, so that ultimately they have the right expectations when it comes to renewal, and that everybody's on the same page, so that that goes seamlessly. So now that you've seen kind of all these things that we've pulled together at CloudHealth, that we try to deliver the best customer experience through, what do the numbers show? So George, can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So we've invested quite some time in driving new processes in our partner success teams, and using these data-driven approaches that we covered in this presentation. So that translated to less than 2% in annual gross churn for our partner community, and our NRR of over 147%, which we are very proud of. And also, it allowed us to really seamlessly onboard over 5,000 customers, and that's just last year. So for us, we're quite satisfied with the ROI that we received on investing all this time and effort into this data-driven approach. We highly recommend that you start leveraging some of these ideas. And I think, like I mentioned earlier on, investing in your customer operations team will make this much easier for you. And investing in a CSM platform like Gainsight, which has worked really well for us over the years, is also not a bad idea. Thank you so much, and I'll give it to Ryan to wrap it up.
So George, Sam, that was awesome. I think that it was pretty cool to see how you guys are leveraging some of those dashboards, how you're taking action on them. It's definitely cool to see some of the results that come from all of that. Just sort of the last sort of point I wanted to tie it up with is what you heard from what CloudHealth does, and sort of what I spoke about earlier is really comes down to this idea of where customer success can help as a strategy. Whether it's a team or it's not a team is somewhat unimportant, but this idea of how do I take all this customer data, all this information that you have, how do I aggregate it? Not just so the execs can see it in a BI tool, but so that the team that's actually handling the accounts can have that information. How do I then take it, analyze it, come up with things like health scores and journeys, and think about what's actually happening from when I take a step back and I look about how my customer looks at me versus just how my function looks at the customer. And then you put that together, and how do I take action? How do I respond? What triggers a reason for me to reach out, and what do I say? And then how do I basically grow as a company? And that's sort of how, in a bow, we think about customer success and how it can help you as a company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan, George, and Sam. Great session. Now it's time for our Q&A. So this is your chance to ask Ryan, George, and Sam anything you want to know. So enter your questions in the chat, keep the conversation going, and we'll be back in just a few moments. So stay in the session window to join in.